2023 council meeting. Let's please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and proceed with the roll call, please.
Mr. Lowry, Mr. Rupo,
Here.
Mr. Scholes,
Here.
Mr. Smolik,
Here.
Mr. Ziegler,
Here.
Mr. Fenstermaker,
Here.
Mr. Hamer,
Here.
All right, thank you. Next on the agenda, the public hearing on the comprehensive plan update 2032. This is an opportunity for the public, if they wish to provide any comments they had with the published comprehensive plan. I don't see anyone from the public coming forward. So I'll move ahead with the reading and approval of the minutes of the February 22nd, I'm sorry.
Mr. Council President, do you close the public hearing on that issue?
Oh, tell me, I'm sorry.
Oh, you opened the meeting. There was nobody here to speak about it, so at that point you can close the public
Do I
hearing.
just say we're closing the meeting? Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
My apology. All right, hearing no comment, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing on the comprehensive plan update 2032. Moving ahead, reading and approval of the minutes of the February 22nd, 2023 Finance Committee meeting.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Councilman Smolik, seconded by Councilman Schultz. Any discussion?
Denise, Denise, if you could capture Lewis's documents that he provided, they're on the website for that meeting as part of the minutes, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Rupo,
Yes.
Mr. Scholes,
Yes.
Mr. Smolik,
Yes.
Mr. Ziegler,
Yes.
Mr. Fenstermaker,
Yes.
Mr. Hamer,
Yes.
All right, thank you. Moving ahead to the minutes of the February 22nd, 2023 council meeting. Looking for a motion.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Fenstermaker, seconded by Councilman Smolik. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Rupo,
Yes.
Mr. Scholes,
Yes.
Mr. Smolik,
Yes.
Mr. Ziegler,
Yes.
Mr. Fenstermaker,
Yes.
Mr. Hamer,
Yes.
All right, thank you. Moving on to the department reports. We'll start with you, Chief Hutton.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no formal report tonight. I should have that for you next meeting. One thing I would like to update council and the mayor on, the police chief, service director, and I have been getting a lot of email correspondence regarding the telephone pole down the street at 9165 Chillicothe. A couple weeks ago, there was a car accident that sheared the pole off, and that's right in front of Nexus Software, right across from the high school. There was some question whether it was safe and what was done to the pole. We'd been working with CEI or First Energy. We were able to get a supervisor to come out today. I did meet with him. He assured us everything is safe. It doesn't look very good at the moment. It's a secondary line going to the businesses. It's not a primary line. They're going to try and get a crew out tomorrow or sometime this week just to straighten, stabilize the pole, and take down the tape. I think the biggest issue is the tape, and it's kind of blocking the sidewalk as well. So we're trying to get that repaired as soon as we can. And the business owners were notified of that as well. So hopefully that'll happen this week. That's really all I have, and I'm open for any questions.
Any questions? All right, thank you, Chief. Chief McAllister.
Thank you, Council President Rupel. Just got a few things. We've been in talks with the Kirtland schools about bringing the DARE program back, and we're happy to announce that the schools has accepted the program. We were able to submit an application for Officer Julia DeWolf, and she was accepted into the DARE program that'll commence in September. So we're looking at getting the program back in 2024. Also this year with the school, we're looking at bringing Prom Promise in, which is an alcohol and drug related event that kind of lets the kids see and experience what it's like to operate or do tasks with basically drunk vision goggles. There's obstacles and things that they have to maneuver. It just is a way to show them that drinking and driving does have consequences and it does impair you. Additionally, we're about halfway through the Lexipol policy project. I think I've vetted and amended 76 policies up to this point, so we're just about halfway there. And then earlier last week, Chief Hutton and I sat down with Lakeland Community College and started the discussion for the Wonderstruck event that'll be happening July 8th and 9th this year. It's going to be a kind of a mixed event, so it could potentially be very busy for the city. And then finally, we were able to work out a range schedule with the Willoughby Police Department. Happy to announce that officers are going to be able to go up and practice with their firearms at least once a month, doing that during work, and we won't be incurring any overtime for those costs. And that'll conclude my report. I'm open for any questions.
Questions?
Is the use of their range, is there a fee involved or?
Nothing at this time. They're allowing us to come up and use it for free.
Very good.
Anything else? All right, thank you. Mr. Fernaro.
Good evening, everybody. I'm going to give you a few updates today. So wrapping up 2020. In the cemetery, there was 33 burials last year, up a little bit from the previous year. I'll give you a snow update. We're at 28 snow events this far. Mr. Smolik, do you know the first day it snowed? First snowfall last year? Close, October 19th. So last year we ended with 38 snow events. We were out 16 times in February last year. Anybody want to take a guess how many times we're out this year in February?
16.
One time, and it was last week. And we were out 3 times in March last year. So the crews have been taking advantage of the mild winter weather. We ditched just under 3,900 feet. We also did some line of sight clearing on our main roads. As far as our package plants, we went through an EPA inspection at Rockwood and Shenandoah, and those are for renewal permits. Those are done every 5 years. And the plant on Hickory Hill on Eagle was done last year. Some good news, with the help of the American Legion, we got a flagpole delivered last week for the rec park. So as soon as we get some warm weather, we'll get that installed. And spring brush pickup will start April 3rd, and it'll be Ward 1. We'll go April 10th to Ward 2. April 17th will be Ward 3. And April 24th will be Ward 4. Not to take all of Doug's report, but we had 3 pre-cons last week. One for Fox Hill drainage, the other one for water line replacement on Kirtland Chardon, and the Old Town sewers. And that'll complete my report. It's going to go right to the left of the pavilion in between fields 4 and 5.
Between the two fields, like between the dugouts?
Yep, gravel area where the drinking fountain is. The drinking fountain will get replaced.
Just a couple of questions. Forgot to ask during the service department meeting beforehand. A couple years ago, we had the very extensive road plan. which indicated kind of what the PSR ratings and stuff. And I know we had talked about, I think a few months ago, with getting the updated plan with, I think, that car that drives around and automatically, are we doing that, or has that been done yet?
If the budget passes, it's in the budget for this year.
Okay, roughly, do we know when that, does that just, I assume summer then, when the, what,
Correct.
is that then put into the updated spreadsheet for the road plan?
Yeah, so all our sheets are they already inputted some of our information. So once they do the assessment of the streets, our sheets will then start being updated as we go along.
Thank you, I just forgot to ask that, so.
So just as a follow-up to that, last year we got the 10-year road plan with every road rated, what we were going to potentially do with it. Are we going to see that once the PCR gets updated?
We're working on updating that plan now, that 10-year plan. And then once the PCRs are updated, it'll probably see another update from that point.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? All right, thank you. Mr.
Joe, I'm sorry. You said the drinking fountain up at Rec Park's going to get taken out?
It's going to be replaced. I don't know if you've seen it. It's a piece of corrugated pipe, clay pipe that
Yeah.
the water fountain comes out of. So
Yeah.
we're planning on a whole project down there with a seat wall. We're trying to move the plaques that are scattered through the rec park into one location and be part of that flagpole. So we're trying to make it dress up the area a little bit and hopefully maybe be an Eagle Scout project further down the road.
The only reason I bring up that water fountain is about probably 8 years ago during a tournament, that thing blew and the water shut off was at the school. So I went and bought a shark fitting at Home Depot so we could cap it. So I'm hoping we improve the shut off when we put a new one in. No, I'm good. But the kids enjoyed it because the amount of water coming out of that thing for about an hour was phenomenal. You did. Yeah, it was a sight. So, I mean, if we're going to put something else in.
All right, thank you. Any more questions? All right, thank you. Mr. Courtney?
Thank you very much. I will start with the Old Town sewer improvements. The commissioners did award the construction contract on February 23rd. Pre-construction meeting was held on March 2nd. Joe and I attended. County plans to issue a notice to proceed to the contractor on March 13th, which will start the clock on the contract duration, and the duration of the contract is 120 days in the contract book. As of today, the contractor has not provided a detailed schedule, so we don't know what his specific start date is. We will share that as soon as we get it. No updates on the ODOT bridge projects, stormwater projects, Fox Hill drainage improvements. As Joe mentioned, we had a pre-construction meeting also on March 2nd with Grade Line, the contractor for that job. Project is expected to start the week of April 3rd, weather permitting, and that project should take 2 to 3 weeks. The city is planning to distribute notices to the residents here in the next week or two. No updates on Rockwood or Parkwood. And Joe mentioned Kirtland Chardon Road, Aqua water main replacement. Aqua plans on replacing approximately 1,500 feet of 8-inch water main on the south side of Kirtland Chardon across the frontage of the Lake Metro Parks property at 8668 Kirtland Chardon Road. And I think they were flagging utilities today, so we'll see some activity on that very shortly. That's all I have. Happy to take any questions.
Doug, just a side question. I heard water lines very difficult to get their hands on. Was this scheduled quite a while ago and finally the materials came through, or?
Not sure. We got the plans for this one in January, I think it was. Pardon? Yeah, and the contractor does have the materials for this one, so not sure what he did to get them, but it is ductile main, and those are the mains that are tough to get. That's the material that's tough to get, so.
I didn't know if there was a change in standard because the dip was so difficult.
No, I know Aqua's been using some C909 pipe as well, the PVC pipe, but I think they are using that primarily in the areas where they're having a lot of breaks due to corrosive soils.
Any other questions? Thank you. Mr. Slapnicker?
Thank you, Council President Rupel. We had our second finance meeting this evening. We've talked about quite a few different things. One of them was our debt issuance, and Councilman Schultz, you had asked me a question on where we potentially could be as far as interest rate. Now, again, we're going to go out to market next month, but we're looking at right now currently between 3.65% and 3.75%. Again, we are a month away from going to market, so these things could change. I do have one item on the agenda, ordinance 23-0-13, and it's to create Fund 215. It's related to the firefighter grant that we received, but we do need council authorization to establish that fund, so I am requesting that this be passed this evening. With that, that concludes my report, and I'm available for any questions.
Questions? All right. Thank you. Mr. Lalo?
Thank you, Mr. Council President. Just had a few things to go over. I think I mentioned previously there was a complete rewrite of the solar zoning code that's going to be set for a public hearing at the next meeting. I think it was at next week, and if everything goes according to plan, that should be on your agenda coming up the next couple of meetings as well. Prosecution cases. Apparently there's been a lot of citations and crime going on in the city. I was just actually at court last week, and the bailiff informed me that I think we were tied or had the most new cases in a week, I think it was, last week or the week before. So there's been an uptick, but I could give credit to the police department for, if they see something, stopping them and doing what they have to do. I will ask at some point at the tail end of the meeting that we go into executive session to consider the sale of municipal property. And lastly, I know I emailed council, but we received very favorable news, I think it was last week, regarding Mr. Nassi's complaint or case against the city and all of us officials, individually and in our official capacity, along with OPBA and their attorney individually and in their official capacity. The federal court, so our attorney filed a pretty comprehensive motion to dismiss the case from the beginning, and the judge, so once they filed the motion to dismiss, Mr. Nassi's attorney tried to amend the complaint. Our attorney challenged that, and the judge simply dismissed their case entirely, which is pretty, it's pretty rare, let's say, that a dismissal happens this early in a case. So obviously when I saw that, I was elated, just very pleased that, just to verify or uphold everything that's happened throughout that process. So in all, as it stands in that case, the city, obviously council voted 6-1 to remove him. He appealed that decision to the Lake County Court of Common Pleas. The judge there at the Common Pleas level affirmed council's decision. He appealed that to the 11th District Court of Appeals. They affirmed the lower court's holding, which again affirmed this council's proceeding, and there was no appeal filed to the Supreme Court. So as it relates to the employment side of it, that is done. There are no more appeals pending as it relates to the administrative proceeding that happened here. As it relates to the federal case, that one was just dismissed by the federal judge. There are still appellate rights as it relates to that. But I'm very confident and hopeful that, again, the judicial decision will be affirmed and upheld. And hopefully, if there is an appeal or if there's not, this will bring some finality to the situation. But aside from all of that, I have nothing further to add unless you have questions for me.
Questions? All right, thank you. Mayor Potter.
Thank you, Council President Rupel. My report really, truly will be very quick. Just want to remind everybody that the Shamrock Shuffle and Shenanigans will take place starting here at City Hall on Sunday, March 26th at 10 a.m. There'll be a 5K race followed by a couple of musical guests as well as a Kiwanis-sponsored beer garden. On the agenda tonight, we've got 23-R-14, which Fairsight Technologies is here to speak about. We also have 23-O-15, which is a one-year extension for Eddie Eckert's services as Economic Development Coordinator. I'd be happy to take questions on any and all before we move on.
With respect to the 23R14, what would be the, since he's here, what would be the appropriate time for him to speak about that? Would it be now?
Or maybe well, at the reading, potentially? Doesn't matter to me. If you want to come up now, Mr. Gibbs?
I mean, I don't want to keep him here if.
I
you know,
kind of do,
have to.
but I didn't say that.
Good evening, everyone. So, as the mayor, thank you, introduced, we have this is the kind of formal process to loop council in to the desire to get advertised for proposals for internet service to be run to all of the houses, businesses, places of worship, education within the city. Right now, I'm sure, especially during the COVID times, and still I feel like we're, you know, as a resident myself, and we're still dealing with the fact that we were kind of a single source internet service provider in town, even though there are technically two, Spectrum being the only one that is technically considered a broadband provider. And even in that, you have no place else to go. Basically, you can't move on, service wise if you have an issue with them, or if they're not providing enough bandwidth for you. Then also again you have no other options. So the city of Kirtland, being that it somewhat straddles the Department of Agriculture line, it's going to be difficult to come across any sort of rural funding because we're still close enough to the those outer ring suburbs that we may not necessarily be eligible for those sorts of things. But obviously, we're going to explore any public funding options that we can along the way. But what you have in front of you, again, under resolution for first reading, is a proposal that was pieced together through my experience and then also other sources from other cities to get basically a good resume of a company who's able to, one, build it, has the assets to do so, who build a good technology that'll get us through a number of decades of future upgrades. Tell us about what sort of service they're willing to provide to the users, whether or not they're going to be able to, what other services they provide other than data, whether it's video or if they're providing affordable care bandwidth thing for lower income. I've, again, tried to be as comprehensive as possible in the RFP. What I believe you can expect, just so you're aware, I don't want to forecast too much, but what I believe you should be able to expect is some sort of, bless you, yeah, call the squad, yeah, we're good, all right. So we should be able to expect some kind of sharing, cost sharing agreement between a provider and the city. But again, the proposal approaches this from the standpoint of the city does not end up owning any of the actual network, so that we are also not responsible for any of the upkeep over the number of years. So other than that, that's basically the 30,000 foot view. If I know you guys probably haven't had this all that long necessarily, so I'll be available throughout the month, throughout the readings, either via email through the mayor's office, or I can reappear here as needed if you have any questions. Or if you have any questions now, I can answer them.
Have you been involved in this process before?
I have. I've been in process. I've not been to a build stage. I've been to the advertising for a feasibility study that gets done for a much larger, more dense city than this. But no, I've not actually been a part of the actual full build. We are lucky enough that we have some really good partners and fellow cities in the area. Fair Lawn, as an example, is a fantastic city that's built their own and been a kind of a model for the entire country in how the municipality can get it done. But directly to answer your question, no, not a full complete build.
How many, do you think there's a handful or just a couple, three firms that would respond? Is the market rich enough, or do you think it's going to be?
I feel like we could make it work with 3. We could get upwards of, I wouldn't expect any more than 10, but anywhere between 3 and 10 respondents. We have, I'm hopeful that we can have at least one large national player, and then we've also had discussions just kind of seeing what this could look like with some regional partners as well. So I think when I had the initial response at the other city that we worked with, I want to say we had at least 5 or 6 that were willing to build for us. That was pre-pandemic and did not really involve a cost splitting scenario. So there's some differences there, some little nuances, but yeah, I think the market will tell though. Yeah.
Just curious. I was just hoping that the market's rich enough that we see those who we want to see respond to it. And
yeah, I mean,
I don't know any of the players in that field, but
well, I mean, as far as business goes, I mean, you guys, I'm sure, know as well as anybody that the need for data and connectivity is not going down. The computers that you now have, it's not a fad. So it's just becoming more and more. So more people working at home, and so I don't see the. I think we should have some good responses. My hope is so. Mm-hmm. Sure.
Thank you.
I'm familiar with the Fairview Park a little bit. I had spoken with somebody about 5-6 years ago. Said it's been very beneficial for them out there. They did that about a good 10-12 years ago. I think they started on that.
It's Fair Lawn's been a while, yeah, that they've done it, but yeah, they were very, very successful about just hitting a home run, saying we were going to far exceed customer service and just build for the next 10, 20 years, not just for the next 2. So it was a good project.
Thank you. And very good job with all the technology improvements you made around here too. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome. All right.
Thank you. Anything else, Mayor? Okay. Okay, standing committee reports. We did have utilities committee meeting beforehand. Scott, do you want to do just a brief rundown? Yeah.
We just need to make some amendments to the way the fees and the structures and the ordinance is written to bring it up to code. That's pretty much what I would say.
And then we had service committee.
Yeah, service committee meeting. Mr. Fernaro, per the budget, went over some of the roads that we're looking at doing this year, with Foxwood and Fox Hill and Crestwood being 2 of them, along with a combination of a variety of other roads throughout the city for different other processes, and some maintenance component also. We're looking at what was it, 1.1 million? 1.1 million in going into roads this year. So.
All right, thank you. I don't have any formal correspondence. So we're up to public comments on matters not on the agenda. If anyone from the public would like to approach, with respect to any public comments of things that are not on tonight's agenda? It doesn't. I'm sorry, is there,
I'm sorry, pardon me, Council President. Did you would like a Finance Committee meeting prior to the regularly scheduled council meeting? Next, yes.
I don't require one, but if the council would like one to further discuss the budget, I can make myself available, but no, I'm not requesting it at the finance meeting.
Are you anticipating a work session next meeting, Mayor?
why don't we set
I'll
it
reach
for a
out
half
to
hour?
every-
Why don't we set a
Okay,
finance meeting and then we'll go into a work session potentially.
okay. And Mr. Slapnicker, you'll be out of town, so any questions that need
No,
to
he
come
should be
to-
back in town.
But he's going to be leaving out of town, and I don't want to bother him on his vacation. So if there's any questions,
Yeah, I'm leaving Wednesday prior to that final third reading. I will have my computer with me, and I'll be checking email in case something comes up. And the mayor can always reach me via my cell phone as well. But as far as Monday for the third reading, I am scheduled to be back in the morning.
okay. Well, let's just set it 6:30, and if there's any questions, but please get them in advance to Mr. Slapnicker.
Please, thank you.
All right, thank you. Old business, public comments on agenda items of old business. Get another opportunity for the public with respect to exclusively items of old business on tonight's agenda. Doesn't appear any. Okay, ordinance number 23-0-10. This is a second reading, an ordinance setting the appropriation for the year 2023. Resolution number 23-R-11, second reading, a resolution authorizing transfers of funds and declaring an emergency. Ordinance number 23-0-12, second reading, an ordinance providing for the issuance and sale of $3,102,000 of notes in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of retiring together with other funds available to the city's outstanding various purpose notes, Series 2022, dated April 20th, 2022, and declaring an emergency. Next on the agenda, new business, public comments on agenda items of new business. Another opportunity for the public come forward, this time with respect to items of new business on tonight's agenda. Okay, it doesn't appear that the public has any. Ordinance number 23-0-13, an ordinance creating Fund 215 to properly account for the receipt of grant funding relating to Ohio's first responder recruitment, retention, and resilience program and declaring an emergency.
Motion to waive the 3 readings?
Second.
Now we have a motion to waive the 3 readings by Councilman Smolik and seconded by Councilman Fenstermaker. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Ruppel,
Yes.
Mr. Schulz,
Yes.
Mr. Smolik,
Yes.
Mr. Ziegler,
Yes.
Mr. Fenstermaker,
Yes.
Mr. Hamer,
Yes.
Motion to declare an emergency and adopt?
Second.
Motion by Councilman Smolik, seconded by Councilman Schultz. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Ruppel,
Yes.
Mr. Schulz,
Yes.
Mr. Smolik,
Yes.
Mr. Ziegler,
Yes.
Mr. Fenstermaker,
Yes.
Mr. Hamer,
Yes.
Thank you. Resolution number 23-R-14. This is a resolution authorizing the mayor through the city's IT consultant to solicit a request for proposal for the building and operating of citywide fiber internet to the city of Kirtland, declaring an emergency.
You going to want this passed on second reading or all 3 readings fine, or how did you want to go about this?
I'm flexible. It's really up to the mayor administration, however they'd like.
I mean, the sooner we get I'm not asking for it to be passed tonight, but Mr. Gibbs
Oh, we
from
may
Fairsight
take-
will be here next meeting to field any further
They take into
questions.
consideration second reading then? Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you, Mayor.
correct. And the timing with the budget as well, right?
Right. Okay, moving on then. Ordinance number 23-0-15, an ordinance extending the agreement for economic development consulting services between Edward J. Eckert of E Squared Strategies LLC in the city of Kirtland and declaring an emergency. And I do see you here, Eddie. And it looks like his contract's up at the end of the month. So, I mean, technically, we could do this the next meeting also.
Correct. That was kind of my anticipation.
Yeah, so.
Mr. Eckert's he'll be joining us in a little bit as well, so.
Right. I just want to try to keep communication clear. So next on the agenda, we're down to council comments. Is there any council comments this evening? Oh, just a reminder, because I know, kind of remind myself, is it May 15th? We do have our upcoming deadline now for our, what do you call it? Our Ethics Commission disclosure. Don't ever want to forget that one. And now we're on to continuing concerns. Any public have any continuing concerns they'd like to approach council with? And then before adjournment, we're looking for a motion to go into executive session to discuss the sale, or I guess would it be sale, consider the sale of municipal property.
Before you guys take the roll call, the vote, Mr. Lallo, do I need to ask for special consideration to ask Mr. Eckert and the finance director to be in that meeting, or? Okay. And then lastly, instead of having Teresa and Denise hang around, Teresa can stop the video, I'm assuming, because there's no more business after this. And Denise, we can record the time of adjournment.
Correct. And for the record, if they go into executive session, we will ask that they come out at some point and then adjourn the meeting. That's the only item on the agenda will be adjournment. And we can note that for the record for Ms. Raleigh, so she doesn't have to stick around.
Motion to adjourn to an executive.
You got me scared. Sorry. Because you said motion to adjourn. It would be a motion to go into executive
Motion to
session
go into executive session.
to consider the sale
Consider a sale of
municipal
public
property.
municipal property.
Motion by Councilman Smolik, seconded by Councilman Ziegler. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Rupel,
Yes.
Mr. Scholes,
Yes.
Mr. Smolik,
Yes.
Mr. Ziegler,
Yeah.
Mr. Fenstermaker,
Yes.
Mr.